Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. B, Dr. Selma Bartholomew. She is amazing. She's another one of our mentors. We wanted to start off with this 1-2 punch so you can hear about this amazing queen. She is the CEO of a fabulous New York City company. However, she has contracts international. She's done work in the islands. She's done work tri-state. She's one of the few Black vendors, MTAC vendors there are, and she's showing other people how to become MTAC vendors. And if you don't know what an MTAC is, oh my gosh, if you are in government contracting, especially in New York City and state, that will change your business's life. That'll change your business's life. And we can jump into that a bit more. But it's a pleasure to present this again with my business partner, Julius Caranda. And we really look forward to diving into this because, as I said, this 1-2 punch with Ruben and Dr. B, it is going to hopefully illuminate a lot of answers that many of you have about running business, especially running government contracting business. So thank you so much, Dr. B, for coming in to share your wisdom. We can't wait to give the people what they want, but they don't know yet.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to CEO Ataande and also to CEO Caranda. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you. And I'm so honored to have the opportunity to talk with you and to connect and to collaborate with Uplift Communities. And you are the company to watch. And let me just say to you also, it's hard to do this work, and kudos to the both of you for truly uplifting communities. And so I'm honored to have the chance to be with you and to be with your audience today.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. B. So I guess we'll start off with your background, right? There are very few people who get their master's in the grand scheme of things, but you went beyond that in getting your doctorate. How did that come about? How did you decide to do that? What was the process? How did it feel writing a dissertation and going through that rigorous ordeal?
How it came about, it's Dr. Selma Bartholomew, I'm Dr. B, and how it came about in reality was as a result of failure. And I know most people don't necessarily want to talk about their failures, but it's important to own it. And so I started off in the area of first thinking in terms of just pure mathematics. And so I graduated from Lehman College in the Bronx with a degree in math and physics. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to go and get a Ph.D. And so I trotted my way down to the CUNY Graduate Center. And I had never seen a dissertation because I was one of the first in my family to actually go, to college and to now seek a higher degree. And when I walked into the graduate center, I was the only woman of color. And later on, I had two colleagues join me. They were actually from Brazil. And so it was a space that was really foreign. And so it wasn't so much about the math, but it was about the culture. And having to work, I would teach. I taught at Lehman College for a few years. So I would teach a class in the morning. I would run down to the graduate center. I would take math. I would run back. So it was always just that huffing and puffing. And I had a really beautiful mentor. His name was Dr. David Stone, a really brilliant mathematician. He's passed on now. And I came into his office one day and I just said, I can't do this anymore. I just, I'm not making it. I'm constantly feeling like, that I'm not surviving. I can't breathe. And he offered me the following words. He said that others had done it before you. He didn't say Black women had done it. He didn't say somebody who was Jewish had done it. He said others have done it before you. So I took those words and I kind of pulled myself up and I left. I walked away. And took a minute to heal from just being in a space that I guess as I reflect now, it almost feels like you're swimming with sharks and people do take bites out of you, So I took a moment, caught my breath, and then I turned and stretched in another direction. And so then I went after a doctorate in educational leadership and policy. And I did my research in mathematics, but it was that moment of kind of realizing, yeah, others have done it before you, and really owning that and thinking about what that means if you're going to, push forward. And so to succeed for those who are considering it, and I want us to have it, I think the words is about scholarship. That initially when I was in that space, no one said you're a scholar. And it made a big difference to then kind of own that and say, who's done it before me? Okay, well, I've got to now really take on that hat.
Wow.
Thank you for that, for sharing that. So obviously you mentioned that you're a trained mathematician, and just knowing, specifically talking about the Black community, let's just, let's get down to brass tacks, right? From your education, from your experience teaching, what do you think the gap is, or has been a gap between the community and mathematics? Why do you think we shied away from it, or maybe have not? It hasn't been highlighted. I know a lot. There's been a big push in the last couple of years in terms of getting more Black students into STEM. They have the Black Girls Code movement. They have young Black kids getting into, like, obviously coding and mathematics and sciences and technology. But from just your experience throughout your education history and your teaching, what do you think that gap is? Why do you think that gap is there?
Well, I think the gap is there certainly because of race and racism, and certainly sexism as well. I think when people look at people of color, they would certainly have created these mindsets, right? And they've told these narratives around who they believe that we are and what our mental capacity is. And so they tell us a history around the fact that history began 400 years ago. And so they don't give you a sense of what your history was before enslaved. And even throughout the 400 years, right? We've been innovators, we have been thinkers. And so I go back immediately as you asked that question, CEO Caranda, I think of Benjamin Banneker's first freedom letter, where he was making a case to say to Thomas Jefferson that we as people of color of African descent have the same mental prowess, and we have the same mental capacity. And that is the fight that we're fighting today. And so the question of math and STEM is that we have been locked out, and we've been told that we can't do math and that we're not good at it, but in reality, we really are. And as I engage in this work as a company, I'm excited to be able to break that paradigm and to change mindsets.
Wow. Thank you. That's a great answer. And thank you so much for being vulnerable first. I think that's something that is not, doesn't happen enough. People are told that entrepreneurship is so romantic, that it's just this way up, or life is just this. Then when it hits them in the face, they say, oh no, this is not for me. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that. But I think you also touched on a few things that are really important, right? So one of the things you touched on is the fact that it's not just the last 400 years. That's not Black history, right? That's not African-American history. It doesn't stop 400 years ago. It's not what happened this recent period. So if we go back, mathematicians, the great mathematicians of ancient times, what do they think took to build the pyramids, right? Things that were created. And I think that's really special. So I kind of wanted to pivot a little bit into what's your philosophy with your company in terms of when you go into these classrooms, when you're working with these colleges, universities, towns, right? Because Dr. B's big, Dr. B does it big time. When you work with these towns or islands, right, per se, these countries, what's your philosophy in terms of going in and teaching and instructing or building capacity, right?
Well, I think first of all, as a company, for those who are considering, a business and having a business, you're so right that it is important to have a clear philosophy and an approach and a belief around your work, because that keeps you grounded. So for myself and for my team, for our approach, it is the fact that mathematics is a language. And we center all of our work in mathematics and in STEM around the fact that we know that it's a language, and we want it to be a language because it would be universal, right? Everyone says it is, but how do you prove it? And for us, especially for Black and Brown children who have been denied access to mathematics, this is the way, because Black and Brown children love to play with words. They are natural linguists, and this is a far more winning approach also to get to diversity, because now I can have a conversation with the boy and girl in the Philippines who speak in Tagalog, and how do they go about, right, learning to talk about math and to talk about the world around them. So our philosophy is that it is a language. And I know people talk a lot about algebra, but algebra is just one way to approach problem solving. And so this more empowering approach of a language allows parents, allows literature, allows us to make a connection through every single subject matter.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. And just as a business owner, you touched on earlier about the challenges of being a woman of color in the Ph.D. program, going through mathematics and things like that, and doing STEM. As a woman business owner, what are some of the challenges that you've faced? Specifically, I mean, obviously being a woman of color, but specifically being a woman, do you find that maybe people don't take you as serious, or have you had that in those instances, or what is some of this, maybe some of the things that you've had to overcome and some of the challenges you had to face?
Oh, thank you for that question. Now, CEO Caranda is going to make me really reflect and a moment to be silent with it, right? I think absolutely you face challenges as a woman, and certainly as a Black woman, without a question mark. I think the greatest challenge that I've faced is that structural racism, the structural racism around getting fair contracts and accessibility. And it's both implicit as well as explicit bias, in the sense that you could be in a room with someone and they would walk off and yes, take your ideas and walk away, and then the contract would go to someone else. And so being in math and in STEM as well, that most people don't want to be told by a woman of color that there's another approach, right? That what we're doing is not working. And so I think it's the structural racism. When it comes to the individuality of knowing how to make a sale and getting to know someone, that's relationship building. So that one-on-one piece, I think it's really important always as an entrepreneur, is to own the space you're in. So the racism makes you almost question sometimes, am I working hard enough? Am I working smart enough? When you're literally, right, pushing against doors that have not been opened and walls that have not, fallen down. So that to me is the biggest piece, because the structural piece, sometimes it's not so much about the change, it's in your hand, but in reality, it's in people who make policies, right? And who makes legislations and who are in leadership positions within organizations to do that deep work, to make shifts in order to truly gain access. And because we have systemically, right, been denied access and certainly access to business, Black people pay for other people's kids to go to college. And so when you don't have a business, you don't have those opportunities, and we don't have legacy businesses. We don't own the dry cleaners. We don't own the gas stations. And so I'm in a professional space. So if those legacy businesses, you don't see us. And so now here I am in a professional space, the systemic racism becomes, a little bit out of your hand, in the sense that you now have to do deep work to engage politicians and to get people to understand that they have power and that you want them to take action.
Wow, that is great. And I'm trying to find the right analogy to use for you, but I want to say this, and I want people when they're watching this to take it in the best light possible. But in my eyes, Dr. B, you're a force of nature, right? And you're a
Thank you
force of
so
nature
much.
in terms of when you come, you set the tone, right? You're a thermostat in terms of you set the tone, you set the temperature, right? And you make sure that things get done in the right way, right? And you're able to pull people together like you're doing with our collective. You're able to pull people together and actually lead them on the right path. And so there's something, and I'm giving away your gems that you give to us. I'm giving away your gems that you give to us, but I see you pushing us, right? And all of us, and mentoring us and telling us a lot of times we try in business, we try to fish, right? We try to fish. And one of your big things is, no, we have to hunt. We're out here to hunt. So can you talk to people more about that? Because I think that's one of the most important things you've really pushed on us to do more of, hunting.
Absolutely. This might be hard for your audience to accept because the words they might come back and say, well, Dr. B, you're not right, but it's the truth. So you eat what you kill. You eat what you kill. And that's the difference. That is the mindset of an entrepreneur, that you're able to stretch yourself and look ahead and go hunting, and understand that if you don't hunt, if you're an entrepreneur, if you don't hunt, you don't eat. If you don't eat, you don't survive. And for those who are listening who may not understand that, it's selling. It's knowing that every time you walk into a room, you must close. Even if you don't want to eat that day, you should still hunt. Even if you're not hungry, you should still hunt. And for me as an entrepreneur for 12 years, I've not had a second gig. I don't have a plan B. I've never had a plan B, even in this pandemic, as hard as it is. I will never have a plan B. I will stand by my convictions of my business and do whatever I have to do to hunt. And I want businesses, especially businesses of color, to know we come from a place where people know how to hunt. And it's been taken from us. And it's time that we took ownership of it, that we need to be able to hunt. And every time Amazon sends a box to your door, they're hunting for your money. Every time you turn on your computer and the little pop-ups, somebody's hunting for your money. And I dare us to, I do this oftentimes when I work with young people. If you take a look at who you are right now, any member of the audience, and just span what you're wearing, span the shoes wasn't made black, my dress, I find it really hard to find black dress, designers. The socks wasn't black. The toothpaste isn't made of black, right? The pots and pans wasn't made of black. And the only time sometimes you can find something that's made of black is if maybe you can get your hair cut by someone of color. You can get your hair done by someone of color. You can get jewelry by someone of color, right? My jewelry. And certainly, yes, nowadays people are, it sounds sexy every time I turn on TV. Oh, you can find Black businesses. Well, that's, maybe I'll hold that for another question. But to hunt is to eat, and to want to now create a space and a table where not just you are able to survive, but you're also able to invite others, right? To be able to invite others into that space. So you eat what you kill. And if you are considering being an entrepreneur, you have to be okay with that. Are you okay with always asking for the sale? Never, ever. I don't do free. Get that all the time. People ask me, Dr. B, is it free? And my answer is Google ain't free. If you think Google is free, then there's something wrong with you. It's not free, and it ain't free. So yeah, you eat what you kill, and you must hunt as an entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very motivating words. And as Achumboro said, you've dropped a lot of gems on us throughout our time knowing you. And what you were describing about hunting and being a business owner, it reminded me of a conversation I was having the other day. I was actually having a conversation with my mother, and I was talking about responsibility. And I think one thing doing business has taught me personally, and I'm sure I can speak for Achumboro as well, is gaining a level of responsibility, right? You are not, it's not just about, hey, I got to, pay my cell phone bill or do that, this, that, and the third. And I think that, we're going to get a little bit on the younger generation. I think oftentimes how entrepreneurship is marketed to us or marketed to the younger generation is, hey, I can turn my hobby into profit, right? But that comes with real responsibility, especially if you have a family that depends on you, and you have employees that depend on you, and you have clients that depend on you. So as a business owner, as a parent, as someone who's thoroughly experienced, what does responsibility mean to you, and what do you think about being a responsible business owner?
Well, I think the both of you are modeling it right now. I think that Uplift Communities in just even creating this space is that you're showing that to be responsible, as you noted, Julius, is not only about yourself, but it's taking ownership of your purpose. It's taking ownership of that destiny, and being okay. It's okay to have a burden. I think that there's a mindset that everything is supposed to be so easy or whatever, but isn't it, if it wasn't heavy, if it wasn't something that was a burden, then why do it, right? Then, we can just walk by each other. And I think that is something that's happening so much. We just walk past each other, and we're not really willing. And that's why it's uplift. And that's why I think you're being responsible. You are truly saying we're going to uplift each other, and we are responsible for supporting each other. So for me, I think it's about that long-term vision about the future and the purpose and the destiny of your work, and being okay on the journey with carrying the burdens, because as an entrepreneur, you carry a lot of burdens. And for Black businesses, the fight is for us, like I noted, for us to get contracts and to get opportunity, because we don't get to have employees. It says that most Black businesses has 3 or less employees, not because we don't have capacity and we have a lot of responsibility family-wise, but because we're being denied access to opportunities. So it's important for us to know that we're not heavy, right? We have to support each other, and we have to take care of each other if we are going to move forward in the future together.
Thank you. That is a much needed word to say. That's a much needed word. So in terms of, you said something about a long-term vision or a future vision, right? So what would you say is either your vision or your vision for the community, right? Either which you prefer to share in terms of what you want, what are you working on, things of that nature.
I think it's both. I think it's both. When I set a vision, it's not about, it's what the company does in service, right, of others. And for me, it's about stewardship as well, that what you do in the now is what you take in the future. And I'm confident, and I speak very boldly and say, we can fix math education, and we have every intention of doing it. Watch us, not just in the city, but we plan on fixing it across the globe, because I know what I'm fighting for. I know that it's important to have your why as an entrepreneur. And especially in this world where there's so much of the enticements, there's so much of everybody's telling you, oh, they're making money in this space or in that space. And you're so tempted to sell and to give away everything of value to you. So your why matters. And for me, the why around, for us as a company, is about the freeing of people and freeing of the mind, to say that when we now have boys and girls and everybody now math literate, being able to make sense of their mortgage, being able to, not just count change, but being able to navigate in new careers, being able to communicate in their relationships, to see how a number impacts you. It's all about math for us, and watch us fix it. So that's my vision, and I think it benefits community. because we have been systemically denied jobs and opportunity and taken advantage of, the car companies who take advantages of us in terms of loans. I have a colleague who's in the financial planning space, and he shared a text or a message to me today, and he said that he has a couple who's of color, and their house was needed to be appraised. So they got a Caucasian friend to come over and pretend to be them so that they can get the better appraisal rate. I mean, that's just disgusting. And until we begin to understand the math and to understand, what's this good for and what the value of it is, then we cannot move forward as a people. We cannot. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's a crazy story.
Can you imagine?
That's a wild.
I think that's pretty innovative, though. I mean, is that what we have to do? Like,
they have to be, right? You have to get the white friend to get your home net worth higher, right? So naturally, this kind of leads me to my next question. That story. So, I grew up with a couple rules that you should, some do's and don'ts, right? So, one of them was don't talk about religion in public, never ask a woman her age and her weight, and never talk about politics in the public either, right? So, but I'm going to ask you this political question. Being that we live in New York, we're all New York natives. We all know that New York is a progressive city. Has a lot of opportunity, a lot of policy and laws designed around progressive movements for vulnerable populations, people of color, things of that nature. But what do you think about the policies that have been drawn up in I guess the talk and the rhetoric around being New York being a city for progressive movement, and how the city does business with Black vendors? And just wanted to see what that juxtaposition is.
Oh, there's only one position, that this is the real Jim Crow. There's only one. I think Malcolm said that anything south of Canada is the South. And it's very sad. I think that there is a game of let's pretend. Let's pretend, yes, that we're liberals and that we're progressives, while we continue to have Black and brown children in schools that label them as failures. Let's pretend that we're liberals, but just don't ask about the money. So even in this context of recovery dollars, yes, we need recovery. Absolutely, people are not working, businesses are dying, but the white-owned companies, they get both. They have the systems and the structures to get the recovery dollars, and watch how they hunt. They take that money, they invest it in the stock market, they get the money back, they pay it back, and so they're good, while at the same time they're getting all the contracts. So no, I do not think that New York City is a liberal place. I think that when you look around and you look at the conditions of communities, and you look, just take a bus, walk the South Bronx, and then get off, take another bus or train and go on the east side of Fifth Avenue. You could eat off the floor in one community, and in another community you cannot. You can get the garbage picked up, right? In one community, in another community it's not. And so it says we have a lot of work to do. And until we break that mindset too, because people tell stories and narratives and we adopt it, right? They tell it in movies, they decide, the documentaries that are going to be told. So they've told this narrative, and so people want to go along with it. And if you go against it, then you feel like you're the odd man out. But I think we have to take a very close look at a city, and we have to take a very close look at our communities and realize that it's soft bigotry. I guess that's the kindest word for it, soft bigotry. And I see it as constantly as the social reproduction of failure. Failures matter in life, but failure is also socially reproduced. So no, I don't see New York as a place. It's actually been a very tough place and a very tough space for me as a business. Yes, I'm an MTAC. For those who don't know, multitask award contract for the New York City Department of Education, but in the 178 years, they have never, ever brought or implemented a program by a person of color. And so in all of this liberal talk, show up. And for our politicians as well, when we talk about math, for our politicians of color, we've been taught to not talk about money. We've been taught, as you were talking, Julius, about rules, right? And don't talk about politics, you know, and it's 3 questions my grandmother told me: your age, your weight, and how much did you pay for it? You're not supposed to ask about. So our politicians in our communities, we feel apologetic when we make a space for Black businesses. We feel apologetic when we seek to have fair contracts or some contracting opportunities. We shy away from that. So we'll ask for relief. We'll ask for welfare dollars. We'll say, I'm disappointed. The Biden administration, you want to give people $15 an hour. No, give us contracts. Give us access to be able to build our community and build our businesses, because then I don't need $15 an hour. I can go hunt. You want to make $1 billion? Let's go hunt in China. There's 1 billion people. I could sell them something. Give me the capacity that I need, just as how they can hunt in our communities. Let's go hunt in their communities.
Thank you. And actually thank you, Julius, and thank you, Dr. B, because that segues right into something I wanted to focus. I agree with you, Dr. B. We need to focus more on the money, the math, as you would say, right? We need to focus on the money, because all the other things, you can finagle that. At the end of the day, there's either is X in the bank account or is Y in the bank account. Exactly. So with that said, what can you say to either us as citizens or us as Black business owners to do in terms of pushing this tide in making sure we get these contracts, make sure we are, I don't want to say penciled out, make sure there's specific budget segments that are going to us, right? Make sure bidding is actually open to us, right? What can we do? And maybe I shouldn't ask a compound question, but I also ask you a compound. What can allies do who are in places of power to help us? Because I think, and I'm hesitant to use the word help, because help, I think sometimes it can be taken as if we don't deserve it, because there are people who are very good at their job. There's LJ, there's Winston, there's you, right? Who are very good at what they're doing, who are amazing vendors, but they need more opportunities, right? And the school, the district, the city, the town, they can get a better return on investment if they go with these vendors. But for one reason or another, that's not happening. So if you want to just attack one of these questions, we can do another session for the other ones.
No, and I so appreciate the time just to have an honest dialogue and an honest discourse. I think over the years, we've just been just doing the work. So it's great to have this space with Uplift Communities. And I really kudos to you and to Julius for making that space to start a conversation and to continue a conversation. So the first part of the question is, what can we do? So it's collaboration. It's having compassion for ourselves, because it's so painful and it's extremely hurtful when you are experiencing, right? And it is the knees on our neck. This sense of just having to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So we have to hold on to each other, and we have to now work strategically at different levels to have our voices heard and to continue to have our voices heard in different ways. And, there are times when I feel like if I just wrote a couple of articles about my experiences. I haven't even sent them out yet. And I feel like if they don't publish it, I'll publish it myself, because it's important to get that story out. And as I was writing, I felt like if I wanted a double entry, I wanted the one with all of the anger, right? To be able to just put it out. And then I wanted the other one of much more, okay, let me just try to at least have a discussion. But the pain is real and the anger is very real about it. So I think for us, we have to come together as a collective. We have to educate our politicians and we have to hold them accountable. Too many people just come into our community and because they look like us, they want us to vote and then they disappear and then they show up later. They're supposed to be leaders. And I think we have to now help them learn what it means to be leaders in our community because we don't have a school that trains them. We don't, right? We don't have our own, academy that we, send our politicians through. So they need to be held accountable and to also learn how to show up. How do we want them to show up for us? We need to help educate them about the policy. And then it's sad also because they kind of are constantly putting out the fires. And I think if we help them to understand that if they now give attention to Black business and Black entrepreneurship, and I want them to see entrepreneurship as an innovation. I know there's a lot of incubator language. I don't think that Black people need incubators. I think we need to be seen as innovation. And what I mean by that is when I have an innovation, it's a theory about how you roll it out. You want to find people who are early adopters. So Uplift Communities, you're early adopters, right? You've bought into being an entrepreneur and you're doing the work. So you need to be protected. You need something so that we can learn from you, right, of what it means to be an early adopter. And then as we do the early adopters, then we need to figure out how to get people to buy into, right, what you're trying. So it's not business incubation. It's much more innovation. That this is a new idea of entrepreneurship because we've lost the memory of it as a people, and we need to be protected. So on one side for us, it's about collaboration and educating our politicians about what we need and holding them accountable. In the context of allies, Achumboro, and I love that idea that, you're thinking, well, people don't like to ask for help. I'm literally in that space right now, and you have to ask for help. You have to have allies in this because I think when you raise the issue to people who are, what we would call good white folk, I think they need to be informed about this and they may not know. So I literally just got off the call with one of my mentors who I worked with, and he is white. And I had to call him because I said, I'm hurting and you have access to a room that I want access to. And I need you to know why I'm hurting, and literally a system that would call him because he's a white male and ignore me. And he and I have a beautiful relationship. We want to work together, but the system literally will ignore me as a woman of color and will now, right, reach out to him as a white male. So we need to be able to work, not just within our own circles, but we have to have the courage now to also reach outside and to, yes, ask for help because relationships open doors for you. And you do whatever you have to do to hunt.
Thank you. That was wonderfully said.
Really. Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. So hearing you speak, and obviously we know you offline, and we have the ability to tap into your brilliance, right? And I know Achumboro, he's an avid, prolific reader. I try to keep a book in my hand once or twice as well. And I'm directing these questions specifically to younger people because I see a lot of trends amongst younger people that are trying to get into business, and the fact that, and I see them kind of almost siloing themselves into, I'm doing this. I'm gonna have a clothing line, I'm only focusing on clothing line. I'm in the music, I'm doing music. If I have an app, I'm in the app development. I'm in the Bitcoin, whatever it is. But what is the importance as a business owner of having like a worldly broad knowledge, knowing about civics, knowing about politics, knowing about the economics, knowing about just worldly news is what's going on, because we live in a world where if something's happening in Israel can impact what's happening in the United States, Saudi Arabia, or Canada. What do you think the importance is of being knowledgeable, constantly educating yourself, and how does that how do you use that as leverage as a business owner and also to hunt and to gain more business?
Wow, Julius, thank you. That's a really great question. Well, first, there's specific knowledge and there's general knowledge, right? So yes, it's important to know your work. It's important to know what it is that you do well. However, you can't silo yourself, as you're saying. And I'm going back to the hunt. If you're going to hunt, you have to have the understanding that you need. You have to be able to, look at how other people are hunting in other areas, and you have to make sense of it and to look at different examples of people who have failed at something, who tried something, who's successful at something. Do it with compassion. In other words, don't read about, somebody on a Forbes list. Yeah, I want you on a Forbes list, but don't think, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong, I'm not on a Forbes list. Well, that's Forbes issue if you're not on the list, right? You got to be that kind of bold when you want to be, an entrepreneur. So you can't, you want to look at it to be able to inform your thinking and to inform that flexibility that you need, to stretch as needed. To also train your team, right? Because it's not only about yourself. When you build a business, you have to begin to pull the right people around you. And if you only stay in one world, and if you're only, talking to the same people every day, you're not going to get that broad talent that you need. And you need people with different skill sets who do different things as you're looking to build a business. See, that's what I'm about. A business that exists 200 years from now. 50 years from now, 100 years from now, you have to have that talent pool, and you will not find it in the same well that the same place that you go to every single day for learning. And so try to make time for it. I think you're absolutely right. And whatever you read, just keep, read at the end of the day. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for that. And I'm going to give Julius, if he wants to ask a long form question before we go into our rapid fire.
Oh, there's a rapid fire?
Rapid fire.
Okay, I'm all right with that. Because I'm an entrepreneur, I can always say no.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm good. We can jump into the rapid fire.
All right, rapid fire.
Okay, so what is the first thing somebody should do when they're starting a business?
A plan. You need a business plan.
Okay.
You have a plan, then you plan to fail. So stop and make a real plan. Yes.
I heard this question for something I was listening to, and I thought it was just an amazing question. But can you name a time in your life, maybe specifically around your business entrepreneurship, where you had to be amazing on an unusual day?
That's every day. Every day. You better be amazing every single day. And that's what entrepreneurship is. You have to love it. In the tough times, there's not been a single day where I regret being an entrepreneur. There are tough days, but in those tough days, you better come prepared. You better be amazing, because ain't nobody coming. Mm-hmm. You're it, and you have to hunt in every single way. And if you go into it, even in those unusual circumstances, it is really about owning the space you're in. And I guess I keep kind of coming back to that mindset. You have to understand that mindset, that I don't care if you don't even want what I'm selling, you just don't know that you want it yet. And that has to be your attitude each and every single time.
Thank you. Yes, and I definitely think we do feel like we always have to be on and always at the best, right, for an opportunity. So my question actually changed due to Ruben Durancy. So we had asked him about his thoughts on work-life balance, and he changed it to something that I really liked. He said he doesn't think of it as work-life balance. He thinks of it as work-life alignment. So what's your views on work-life alignment?
I don't know if I ever seek balance, because I think if you seek it too much, right, you just end up trying to vibrate and end up just feeling out of sync.
Mhm.
I firmly believe in planning. So I don't do a day, list. I sit down and I actually have a plan that spans over 3 weeks. And in that 3-week time, I'm thinking about, okay, this is what I need to accomplish. Do I need to, do I have doctor's appointments? Are there things that I need to be able to do in order to take care of my personal self, and what needs to happen with the business? I do have boundaries. I think it's really important. There are people who say that they work on their business, 24 hours. Well, when do you sleep? So it's important to turn it off, because then, as Julius's question, which I think is really interesting, Julius, what you're saying is you have to have time to learn as well. So if you're only going to be immersed in your business, then who wants to spend time with you? You wouldn't even want to spend time with yourself. And that says that you're not really working smart, you're just working hard. So I don't pick up my phone after 7 p.m. Almost never do I pick up my phone after 7 p.m. I do go to the gym. I try my best to eat healthy. I go for walks, even though people are now in this whole Zoom culture. Get up out of your chair and go outside for lunch. Go outside and, get some fresh air. Do the things for yourself, as well as, for the business. Now, yes, does the mind work on it? Absolutely. But if I never unplug, then I'm just going to get anxious and feel overwhelmed. So it's really important to have a plan. Structure in terms of time matters. Know when you're going to unplug. Have some safe space that no one gets to intrude upon. No one intrudes upon my time. No one. I do not let anybody take my time, because that's really my energy. And so it's really important to know that in terms of work-life, balance. Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
You did. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. This is more of a, this next question is more of a personal question. I know you were, I'm from, originally from Queens, but I currently reside in Harlem. Been here for the last couple of years, and this is, it just, I've always been a fan of Harlem, just a fan of New York City, period, being a New York City kid, but just being uptown, the culture, the history, from Adam Clayton Powell to Malcolm X spent a lot of time up here. The Harlem Renaissance. Being that you're from uptown, what does Harlem mean to you? What do you think about when you hear Harlem?
I think of the word amazing. It's the only place, no matter what you're feeling, you can walk and you'll get some love.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so thankful to say I live in the Bronx, but I'm from Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sharing it with you, okay, Julius? Amazing for me in the sense that it's a level of resiliency, it's community. I was very thankful. I grew up right opposite the Harlem School of Arts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the youngest of 4. And when I was born in Grenada, when my family came here, they couldn't afford to send 4 kids to the Harlem School of Arts. So, one went, my oldest brother went, and then my other brother he went for art, and then another person, he went for guitar. But my window view was the birth of the Jazz Fest. And so every summer, you name it, they would come and play and set up in this little parking lot area. And I would get to hear all of the jazz greats. And so where else can you have that, right? But Harlem. And I know we've kind of lost a lot of that in the whole gentrification piece, but to me, it's just, Harlem it truly is amazing. And it's been a place of love. It's been a place that I got to, as you mentioned, some of those names, Adam Clayton Powell. I was honored to have as one of my mentors, Dr. John Henry Clark.
Mm.
And it turns out that his wife was my first 4th grade teacher. So, a real place of history and a real place of grounding me. I didn't feel lost there. And yes, there were challenges, but yeah, it's near and dear to my heart.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I think to be respectful of time, I think I'll let Julius ask a question if he has to.
Yeah. And I'm fine. I'm with you, and I know you can. And for those who are listening, please make sure you like and subscribe. Like and subscribe to their channel.
Yes, thank you. Please like and subscribe to our channel, Uplift Community. But also, Dr. B has a channel too. So we would definitely like them to like and subscribe. Can you shout out your channel, Dr. B?
It's Partner with Legacy.
Partner with Legacy. So we'll leave a link below to her channel and also her LinkedIn so you can follow her and then see her amazing updates, and also a link to her company, Partner with Legacy. So you can reach out to them if you need them to help out your country, because that's Dr. B. You need her to help out your country or anything. As you know, she's well-versed. So something I'll say, you said something about mentorship, right? And before you had brought up this, who would you recommend that we should interview, that people you really respect that we should interview? I believe you said something to us before, but on talking and furthering this, because obviously if anybody you respect, that definitely means other people should know of them as well. And I think that's something we lack dearly in our community a lot. Mentors who can ground us, right? And really show us these are the ropes and we can come back to when we're facing a tough challenge. So
on the spot.
Just one or two people. You don't need to. So we're going to limit.
I don't know if I have a name yet. I think what I would suggest is going back once again. I'm really hopping in your question, Julius. I think that there are some, innovative people writing and thinking about right, what we're wrestling with as a community, as well as, certainly thinking through the entrepreneur lens as well. So I would probably say, let's maybe, if you think of a really good book that you may want to read, or to introduce people to an author that they may not be somebody in mainstream, but to at least give them the chance to lend their voice, to you. So, and I will think about one or two tonight. I don't want to name someone and then it's like, oh, the first woman would be like, oh, you didn't name me. So I don't want to, but I will absolutely get back to you with some formal recommendations. But how I think about it is much more, what do I want to learn? And how do I go find that person who has that particular knowledge, and inviting them right into, into a space with me, and to share their pearls, right? And even sometimes it's not even sometimes always the person who you agree with as well. I feel like if it's important to have people at the table where there's dissent, so that way we can come to agreement. Yeah.
Thank you. Also, actually, before we go, I can't forget, Dr. B has some journals on Amazon. So can you so if you need help and you need some guidance from Doc, she has some journals. Can you tell a little bit about your journals before we wrap up?
Oh, and I so appreciate that. Thank you. So absolutely. So as a company, it's not just when you think about your company, don't just think service, also think a product. So I'm honored to say absolutely, if you enter my name, Selma K. Bartholomew, you will see a series of, we have 17 journals up, blank journals that are really beautiful. So Mother's Day is coming. So they make really great gifts, as well as Father's Day. So we designed them in such a way that there will be something also for the man or the woman in your life. And then we spend a lot of time with just that habit of mind of reflecting. So the idea of kind of, if you're grappling with purpose, you'll see a purpose warrior journal, because we're really trying to create a community of warriors. And so they are absolutely available on Amazon. And then we also do, in the education space, we have, if anyone has a young man or a young woman in their life, we have a legacy youth journal for boys and young men of color, and we have a legacy youth journal for girls and young women of color. And we also have a math notebook. We're the only person in the world with a math notebook, and we're excited about that piece around developing those habits of mind. So thank you so much for allowing me to share that with your audience.
It's our pleasure. And it ships worldwide. So no matter where you are, you can get it.
Right.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Dr. B, for your time. We hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and we look forward to doing this again with you.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to the both of you for your leadership, for your strength, for your vision in pulling this together, for making time and creating a space for me as well. It's an honor to know you. And I just feel like, wow, if I could, look ahead 150 years from now, watch out, people. Uplift Communities, they are doing the work and will continue to do the work. And community is not a burden for them. That's why they're uplifting it. So I thank you both for your leadership and your service.